What's going on, guys? It's Nick here, back with another video. It's Monday, dinner time. It's time for the Mock Draft Monday. This might be a very, very long one. We're going to do stat of the day. We're going to go over 3 underdog drafts that I've done. We're going to go over 3 underdog drafts that you've done. I'm going to improve one of them. I'm going to show you another potential draft. Then we're going to do a live FantasyPros draft. So lots of drafts in this one from a bunch of different spots. We got like basically every single spot, it feels like, in this video. So yeah, it's going to be long, so we need to start basically right away. So stat of the day, we'll get that out of the way. Yesterday's stat: who was the oldest wide receiver to have at least 35 fantasy points, or I guess 35 fantasy points in at least 1 week last season? The answer: old man, Antonio Brown. You guys know I record these on the Friday, so I don't know who won, but I will try to remember to post the winner in the comment section. Today's stat, an easy one. Who was the oldest running back to have a rushing touchdown last season? I expect you guys to be able to do this one. So here's another thing. So remember back, maybe a month ago, stat of the day. We had these two stats in like back-to-back days, or at least close to each other. How many running backs had at least 30 PPR points in a game last season? The answer was 16. How many wide receivers did the exact same thing? Answer was 28. So in the back of our heads, we kind of got to know this, right? Yes, you're going to have your McCaffreys, your Dalvin Cooks, your Derrick Henrys. These dudes are going to have games where they go off. But there's definitely a steep drop-off after like the running back ones into the running back twos. And you got to realize that when you're drafting later in the draft, you can't be expecting explosions from your running backs, right? But you can expect that at wide receiver. Random wide receivers are going to have spiked weeks. We're going to see dudes that go undrafted that have, pretty bad seasons overall. Like, you're never actually starting them in season long. But for best ball drafts, for underdog, well, I want to capture those boom weeks. And so you can have a situation where a wide receiver only has 500, 600 receiving yards, but you started them like 3 different times on underdog, because you're trying to capture those spiked weeks. So keep that in the back of your mind in today's video as we go over some of these drafts, because it's a very, very important point to make. So what you're also going to see on the screen, I've got all these drafts to show you. This is a very important graphic. I want to say 4 for 4. I think TJ Hernandez tweeted this one out. Great follow if you want to follow him on Twitter. Just type in TJ Hernandez, you'll find him. This is basically what's the build, what percent of the field had this build. This is not going to add up to 100 because there are other builds. It's just that like some of them are like ridiculous. Like people are going to have, 4 or 5 quarterbacks. People are going to have 1 quarterback, but like these were like builds that you would actually try and do. And I'll talk about what the build means in a second. So percent of the field that did it, that's what percent of people drafted a team under that construction. What percent of that was a top 10% team and then a top 1% team? So if you look at the first one, people that did 2-6, 8-2, 13% of people did it. It was a top 10% team, top 10% team, 10.5% of the time, top 1% team, 1.27% of the time, which means it was a little better than like on average, right? If they were producing a top 10% team more than 10% of the time, top 1% team more than 1% of the time. So it's like a good build to go under. What does the build mean? This is just number of quarterbacks, running backs, wide receivers, tight ends. So 2 quarterbacks, 6 running backs, 8 wide receivers, 2 tight ends. It was the most common build last season. It was like a good build, but like obviously this isn't like a massive difference. It's like 0.5% better than it should be, 0.2% better than it should be. But it makes sense. People like security. And so are we going to do a 2-6? We're going to do one of those. So I'll get to it in a second. Actually, why don't we just do it now? All right. This is an example. We're going to go through the other ones after. This is actually not my team. So this is a team that I was in this draft, and I noticed this build because I wanted to go over different builds. And so we'll go over this one and maybe what I would do differently. So under this build, people are basically saying, taking 2 quarterbacks, so I would probably want 2 that I feel good about. Stafford, Lawrence, I feel good about both those quarterbacks. Tight end, if you're only going to take 2 tight ends, You either want both of them to be solid like we did with quarterback here, or you want one of them to be really good. So if you draft Darren Waller, you don't need 3 tight ends, right? You can just go ahead and take Jarwin. You could do other tight ends we like late. You can do like an Irv Smith. You could do Cole Kmet, Ferkser. Who's like a really good late Troutman. So guys like that where it's like they're not awful. Like you're not trying to draft someone that has no upside, but just guys we like feel decent about because you're not drafting a third one. And because you only went 2 and 2, you've got a lot of picks left. So you see a huge section of the draft here, all running backs and wide receivers. This is a lot. 14 running backs and wide receivers is a good amount. My problem with this particular draft, remember what we talked about with top 4 pick. We love using the anchor running back strategy. And when you're drafting on Underdog, which is what these drafts are going to be, which is what we recommend drafting on, when you draft there, you've got to assume, and honestly, this is for everyone. For any sort of league that you're in, it's Underdog, it's FFPC, it's your sleeper league, your ESPN league, whatever you're in. You have to assume early in the draft you were right. So when you draft Derrick Henry 4th overall, you're assuming that you hit. You're assuming that he's not going to tear his ACL in week 3. Because if that happens, let's be honest. No matter what you do for the rest of the draft, it's an uphill battle, right? Your draft doesn't matter at that point. You need to make trades. You need great waiver decisions because, you were counting on him to go off. Other people are definitely going to have a better team than you. So you need to make that edge up some way that was not the draft. So because that's the case, and we're assuming that Derrick Henry hits, we're assuming that we have 2 running back spots. We're using Derrick Henry in that spot most of the time. And so what you want to do, and what this person did correctly for the most part, is you don't want to spend a lot of draft capital now at running back. And if you do a build where it's like you took Derrick Henry and then another running back in the next round, now you're set, and you're not taking a running back until 16, 17, 18. You're going way, way down because you've spent so much capital. You're assuming they hit. Now you're waiting a long time. And for the most part, they did that. They took Kareem Hunt in the 6th round. That's totally fine. My mistake, or at least their mistake that I think is a mistake, is these running backs here. Again, we're assuming Derrick Henry hits. So we don't need to keep spending capital at running back when we have Derrick Henry, we have Kareem Hunt. How many times do we really think we're going to be starting Zach Moss and Jamal Williams? And if the answer is all the time, it probably means Derrick Henry didn't hit and you probably just didn't win this draft. I would have taken both of these and converted them into wide receivers, and then maybe sometime down here, because Denzel Mims is useless, right? Denzel Mims is the 5th best wide receiver on the New York Jets, right? He didn't have a good rookie year. He's not having a good camp. The odds you use Denzel Mims on this team are very, very minimal. And so instead of that, why don't we take a guy? I don't remember exactly who was available at this pick, but take a guy that has, honestly, for this build, you'd want pass catching. So someone who's just going to be a 3rd down back is just going to get some points to where it was if Henry goes on bye, if Kareem Hunt goes on bye, if one of them's hurt for a few weeks, not for the full season, for a few weeks, you're just getting some sort of points. But taking Mims, it's that doesn't make sense. So convert that into a running back, and then you just needed more wide receivers, basically, at this one. And it kind of goes back to what I'd said before. It's we're basically trying to, if we're not spending an early pick on wide receiver, we're making up with it with volume, right? So I also want high upside wide receivers. I want guys who are only going to have 600-700 yards in the season, but they're going to hit those spiked weeks. They have a chance for 152 scores. And if I have 8 of those guys, well, a few of them are going off every single week. That's not really Mims, and that's why I really wouldn't be drafting him here. But yeah, I think overall, this is a good, solid, safe build. Every single week, you're going to have someone at running back that does well. You're going to have some wide receivers that do well. And since you spent good draft capital at tight end, you're good. And since you did 2 solid quarterbacks, you're good. It's a safe build. That's why the field likes it a lot. Let's go over some other builds, though. So this is a draft that I'm in right now. You're going to see question marks. Basically, I'm going to take a running back, a wide receiver, and a tight end. I don't know what order it's going to be in, but that's how I'm going to close this draft off. This is going to be a 2-4-9-3 build. So only used 1.4% of the time last season. That's 2 quarterbacks, only 4 running backs, 9 wide receivers, and 3 tight ends. Under this build, I've done pretty much exactly what this other person did. I took Russell Wilson, and as soon as I took Russell Wilson, I knew that I'm only taking 2 quarterbacks, right? Because I'm assuming that Wilson works out, and taking like extra quarterbacks doesn't really make sense for me to do, especially because I'm heavily invested in Seattle in this team. I have Russell Wilson. I've stacked him with DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett, and Gerald Everett. If Wilson's bad this season, my team lost. It doesn't matter if I take another quarterback and that guy ends up working out. My team lost if Wilson gets hurt. So why not go all in and just not really take other guys? I take Tua here in the 12th round because I had Waddle, wanted to pair him with someone. I actually really like doing a Tua and Waddle stack in best ball. I feel like we're going to see it another time in this video. But I thought that was a very safe pick. If I'm taking that next guy after Wilson, it's like, I know Tua's going to be solid this season. I know he's going to have some good weeks. And so now I'm just like set at quarterback. At tight end, I didn't take a tight end until the 13th round. And so a good strategy for me is to just say, hey, if I take Everett, if I take Kmet, and then I take someone super late, I don't know who's on the board right now, but someone else super late, I'm assuming that like one of them is going to catch a touchdown each week. That's basically all I'm hoping for, is that each week someone has like 4 for 70 and a touchdown, just like one of the guys, and I can just put that in to the tight end spot. I'm just going to get it with volume. And then I did their anchor running back strategy. So I picked 2nd overall. I picked Dalvin Cook. I don't pick again until the 11th round. I take Gus Edwards. 14th round, I take Xavier Jones. And then I'm going to take someone, probably a pass catching back in the 16th, 17th, or 18th round. If Bernard's on the board, I might take him. Again, I don't know exactly who's left. But the thinking here is, again, if I think this team wins, it's that Dalvin Cook goes off and Seattle goes off. So how do I build around that? I take Dalvin Cook. I assume that I'm good to go with one of the running back spots. I'm only filling in one more. I think Gus Edwards will be a safe pick. He'll provide nice floor. I think Xavier Jones is going to have a role. He'll probably score some touchdowns this season. I'll capitalize on those. And then we're going to have a pass catching back. Those 3 should just rotate into that running back 2 spot. Now I only have 2 quarterbacks. I only have 4 running backs. I can get a ton of volume at wide receiver. I basically just want to win wide receiver in this league. So I take DK Metcalf, AJ Brown, Jamar Chase, Tyler Lockett, Sutton, Brandon Cooks, Waddle, Fuller. I'm just going, I have the double stack, Fuller and Waddle with Tua. I'm just going for guys who every single person on this list has a high weekly ceiling, and maybe Lockett's not super consistent, but I know it's either Metcalf or Lockett every single week, so I'm capturing one of their booms. I know Brown's going to go off some weeks. I know Cooks, listen, I don't really want them much in season long, but I know Cooks is going to have some blow-up games. I'm just capturing those. So I think this is one of my better builds that I'm finishing up with right now. And again, it is very important to have these stacks, because if they have a week where Waddle has 150 in a score, I want his quarterback, right? I want to capture that correlation. Another build I did. This one is very, very similar. So this last one was 2-4-9-3. Now we're just switching it to 3-4-9-2. So we're going from 2 tight ends. From 3 tight ends to 2 tight ends because I took Darren Waller. So again, we're early in the draft. I take Alvin Kamara. And this one was a while ago. I think I drafted this one. That's why I read it. Miles Sanders and Tunyon, I would not be drafting them anymore. But you could just replace them with whatever other running back or tight ends are available at that spot. But this was a while ago, and I don't really want them anymore. But it's the same idea. I took Alvin Kamara early, and now I take Darren Waller. And so I'm saying, okay, I've invested heavily in these 2 positions. I'm probably only going to take 2 tight ends and 4 running backs. For this one, I wanted to go heavy at running back. So I take TK Metcalf. I take J.K. Dobbins. I take Miles Sanders. And I say, I am totally good at running back until the very end of the draft. I'm taking one more. And it's going to be really late. Now, I want to get high volume at the wide receiver position. I take Claypool, Judy, AB, Pittman, Waddle, Ruggs. And then I take A.J. Green, Diami Brown, and Tutu. Look at those last 2. Brown, Tutu. Wouldn't be surprised if both of them are under 600, under 500 receiving yards. but I know when Tutu hits, it's because he's hitting deep. I know when Brown hits, it's because he's hitting deep, and I'm capturing that upside. Another mistake I just talked about before, I took Kyler Murray. I don't need to take Derek Carr and Tua. I can just take one of them. I could have just done the Tua and Waddle stack and not use Carr. I took Carr basically because I'd taken Waller, and my thinking there was like, okay, if Waller's a great pick there, it means he's like having a ton of spiked weeks, and I should at least just like try and capture that with Derek Carr, because I didn't think my stack with Kyler Murray and AJ Green was like insanely good. I think it's a quality like stack, because you basically, if you miss out on Hopkins, it's like, well, what else are you going to do, right? You try and grab someone else. You could do Rondale Moore as well, but I went with AJ Green. This one I think Moore was already taken. But I think those are the mistakes. I would not draft Miles Sanders anymore. I would not draft Tunyon anymore. And I don't think I would have taken Carr. I should have just done another wide receiver, because I didn't take a wide receiver until the 6th round. So since I don't have a lot of draft capital in it, I should just be hitting it with volume. You know, like I would not love in a season-long league if these are my top wide receivers, but I know Claypool's going to have spiked weeks. I know Judy's going to, AB's going to, Pittman's going to, Waddle's going to, Ruggs. I don't love Ruggs this season, but when he hits, it's going to be 100 and a score. And so if I have enough of those players, I'm good to go at wide receiver. That is my general strategy. So if you want to know like my favorite build on Underdog, it is to do that. It is to invest in the running back position early. Maybe we take a quarterback or a tight end early, but to have some high draft capital at running back early in the draft so that I don't need to spend a lot of picks at running back. I think, yeah, here's a draft that a subscriber did. I don't love this build because look at all of these running backs. Like, I understand this is the 2-7-7-2 build. So two quarterbacks, 7 running backs, 7 wide receivers, 2 tight ends. Obviously, they made a mistake waiting too long at quarterback. Did my color coding wrong? Whatever. You guys can figure it out. Quarterback here, Daniel Jones and Winston. You can't do that. Like, you need to have better quarterbacks than this. You're not going to have enough spiked weeks. But let's just say they didn't make that mistake. Let's just say they had 2 like more quality quarterbacks. Those are fine. Taking the 2 quarterbacks is fine. Taking Kelsey and Goddard is totally fine. Maybe it's a little bit early. You're assuming that Kelsey goes off, and so like, why do you have Goddard so early? So I would have moved Goddard down to here and maybe moved quarterback up a little bit. But not even looking at those 2 mistakes, Coleman, Penny, and White are just not great picks. And like, look at these running backs like Swift, Myles Gaskin, Trey Sermon, Jamal Williams, and then Coleman, Penny, and White. It's like you're trying to win running back with volume here, which is what we do at wide receiver, but I don't feel great about these running backs, and we know the spiked weeks aren't there as much at running back. You're unlikely to get 30 points from a lot of these running backs, whereas if you took a lot of high upside wide receivers, you might. And then you look at the wide receivers that were taken, it's like Callaway, I don't feel great about. I don't feel good about Hilton. It's like AJ Green is your 5th best wide receiver. Cooper Kupp's good, but does he have spiked weeks? Maybe not. And then, I mean, both Fuller and Brown are hurt right now, so that's not great. So it's like, this is not my ideal build. I know it looks safe because you only have to start 2 running backs, 3 wide receivers in the flex, and so you just like know you're going to get starting options. But you also know like you're unlikely to have a fantastic team, and that's why this build hits, you know, under 10% of the time, at 8% of the time, because there's just like, there's no real advantage to having this team. If I take, you probably beat most of my builds at tight end because you have Kelsey, but you also spent a lot of draft capital there. But if I take, you know, this is not beating anyone at quarterback. And even if I only invest in 4 running backs, if one of them's good, I have you beat because I have 1 stable running back. I've got a few others that are okay, and then someone deep, like you have you beat there. And then if I just draft a few more wide receivers, I'm capturing enough spiked weeks where I have you beat at that spot too. So I don't like this build. Again, my ideal build is not spending a lot at the running back position because it's less predictable, less spiked weeks. Take some draft capital, take high draft capital at that spot, only take like 4 or 5 of them, and then just load out the wide receivers. This is another build that I had, I think it was a good amount of time ago. Drew Lock, again, highlighting my mistakes. Drew Lock was a mistake. I've got Wilson. I've got Brady. There's no reason for me, and also I don't even think I stacked Yeah, this wasn't a great draft. I didn't even stack Wilson. You got to be stacking your quarterback. I stacked Brady with Mike Evans here. But this is another way you can do it. Again, Zeke, Joe Mixon, David Montgomery. 1, 2, 3. Now I say I don't need running backs. If I'm assuming these guys work out, I don't need to take more of them. So I take Gainwell really late in the draft. And then I take high upside receivers. Mike Evans, Odell, Boyd, I wouldn't say is high upside, but I just thought he was like a quality pick there. Hardman, obviously, high upside. Rondell Moore, Aguilar will be a deep threat on the Patriots. Perriman's a deep threat. Brown's a deep threat. Eskridge, that was what I did. I just ended the draft with Eskridge because I was like, even though he's hurt, it's the 18th round. I got to pair Wilson with someone, so I'll take him. So again, that is like the general strategy. Let's look at, okay. We're going to pull this up. This is a team that went with a very uncommon build, but one that I think you guys should try out, and that's 2 quarterbacks, 2 tight ends, 4 running backs, and 10 wide receivers. So like the epitome of what we've been talking about here. Now, I went through all of the drafts and only found one team that did this. So over here is what they ended up doing. But then over here is what I would have fixed it to be. So they take the Tannehill and Burrow. I thought that was totally fine. If you're going to do 2 quarterbacks, having 2 of them you feel good about. Personally, I probably would change Burrow right now to someone else, but I'm not going to change that. So I think those are solid. I think the running backs, for the most part, are really good. Starting off with Chubb, Harris, and Etienne, you're getting youth, you're getting quality running backs, you're getting guys who can get a ton of touches. Like, I think those are great picks. Didn't change those at all. And then it didn't change Amari Cooper and Julio Jones. Maybe I picked different wide receivers of those picks, but that's not the point of this. So the first 5 rounds, I think, are really good. Again, Nick Chubb, Najee Harris, Amari Cooper, Julio Jones, and Travis Etienne. I think that's quality. Then I think they make a mistake. They take their 4th running back in the 6th round. I don't think that's smart. I think you're just foregoing wide receiver a little bit too long. Yes, you're trying to hit it with volume late, but as we'll go over, 1, you didn't take high upside wide receivers, and 2, it was just a little bit too late. You can only get so much talent at wide receiver when you're drafting in later rounds. You need a little bit more draft capital at wide receiver if you're going to do this build. And I just don't think Hunt adds that much value. Again, you're assuming Chubb and Harris go off, and then Etienne goes off. Like, how many times are you really using Kareem Hunt? You could have used that at a different position. So I think don't do Hunt there. Take like Xavier Jones in the 15th round, because what is Marquez doing? I mean, Marquez is what, like the 4th best wide receiver on Green Bay? Maybe he has 1 good week, but if you were to count him for 1 good week in the 15th round, I would rather just use that draft capital in the 6th round on Devonta Smith and then take Marquez Valdes-Scantling and make him Xavier Jones, because you're, again, assuming these guys go off, and that means you're fine under my build. Takes Higbee in the 7th, again, Tannehill in the 8th, Darnell Mooney in the 9th, Joe Burrow in the 10th. I think all of that is fine. So really only one mistake through 10 rounds is Kareem Hunt. I think the rest of it is really, really solid. Then I don't love it. So you take Irv Smith, right? But you don't have a stacking partner with Tannehill. Like, who is Tannehill stacked with? Like, you're assuming Tannehill does good if you only took 2 quarterbacks. If he does good, he has to throw to someone, right? So I think instead of taking Irv Smith in the 11th round, we'll take Ferkser. Because now at least there's a chance that Tannehill's hitting Ferkser for like a high amount of touchdowns. That's why Tannehill's doing well. And now you have a tight end that's doing decent. So I wouldn't have taken Irv Smith. Maybe take a guy like Terrace Marshall there. Nice high upside pick. That means you convert Parker into Ferkser. And like, I don't even like Parker anyway, so I think that's totally fine. Basically, the rest of these, I'm cool with Hamlin in 16th. I just think like took Randall Cobb, John Brown, Marquez, Allen Robinson, and Denzel Mims. Also, side note, drafting Randall Cobb, MVS, and Allen Lazard, it's like, well, where's Rodgers, right? If Lazard's going off, if Randall Cobb is going off, like Rodgers is the reason they're going off. You need that correlation. If those guys end up working out, it's because Rodgers worked out. So you got to take Rodgers if you're going to do that. You don't stack receiving weapons on a team and then not take the quarterback. Burrow, I don't even know if he's a stacking partner, but I guess it was late enough. That was fine because if you're taking Burrow in the 10th round, like T. Higgins is off the board, Chase is off the board, Boyd is off the board, and then you wouldn't have known. So you could say, oh, just make this T. Higgins. You wouldn't have known in the 6th round you were taking Joe Burrow. Maybe if you had that plan, you could have done it. But then, yeah, I would just change it to sleepers that we like. So change these picks to like Terrace Marshall, Diami Brown. Don't take John Brown, take Bryan Edwards. Bryan Edwards is the one that's looking like he's dominating in camp. Like take the younger receiver, the guy that we were excited about last season, but talked about basically like he's too young. Like we think he's very, very talented, but he was too young last season. He's looking like he's crushing camp right now, so take that guy. Hamler was fine again. And then take like Nico Collins. Take Tim Patrick. I know I have 2 Denver guys, but if Tim Patrick works out, it's because he got traded. So I think that like the Saints should trade for Tim Patrick. Tim Patrick is a fantastic wide receiver. He's really, really talented. He has no chance of really playing, it seems, because he's got so many wide receivers ahead of him that are also very talented. Well, teams that need wide receivers should be trading for that, right? So I think the Saints should trade for Tim Patrick, and so that's why I took him in like the 18th round. This is just a high upside pick. If that happens, he's going to be very, very valuable. And again, it's like the Mims. It's like no one's trading for Mims because Mims isn't all that good, and then Mims is just not getting playing time. Even the small amount of playing time he does get, it's not going to be super valuable because he's on the Jets. So stop taking Mims. And it's a similar situation with Lazard. Like he's going to be fine, but you know his role is capped even if Adams went down. And while Adams is healthy, while Amari Rodgers is healthy, or Randall Cobb is healthy, like there's just not enough volume for Lazard to have those spiked weeks. And that's what we're looking for late. So a lot of these picks feel like they're wasted. So that is a general take. No. There's one more. I didn't show you guys. So probably one of the biggest ones is this 3-4-8-3 build. Only 2.3% of the time it was used, but it's got a good hit rate on 10%, and 2.5% of the time it results in a top 1% team. By far the most, but I literally couldn't find like people who did it. So this is not a draft I actually did. I basically just looked at ADPs on Underdog, and I said, what would like a reasonable team look like under 3 quarterbacks, 4 running backs, 8 wide receivers, 3 tight ends. And again, this is just going to be a great close to the Underdog section of this draft. If we're going for 3 quarterbacks and 3 tight ends, what does that mean? It means we did not spend a lot of draft capital early, because if we took Kyler, if we took Josh Allen, we should only be taking 2. If we took Kittle, Waller, Kelsey, we should only be taking 2 tight ends. Since we're doing 3, make them late. So at tight end, we take Logan Thomas, Ferkser, and Zach Ertz. At quarterback, we take Tannehill, Justin Fields, and Ryan Fitzpatrick. We're saying one of those guys is going off every week. Let's try and figure out, we don't have to figure out which one it is. Let's just stack them with guys. So that's what we do. Tannehill, we stack with Ferkser. Fields, because we took Mooney, we can do that stack. And then Ryan Fitzpatrick, we stack with not only Diami Brown, but Logan Thomas. So if Brown's going off, if Ferkser's going off, if Mooney's going off, we've got the quarterback that's stacked with them. Now we have not a ton of draft capital left, so we don't want to do like this build. Okay, right here. We could have done this build, right? 3-3, and then we just take a bunch of running backs and like 6 wide receivers. But as you can see, only 8.7% of the time that results in a top 10% team, and only 0.7% of the time results in a top 1% team. You're better off taking fewer running backs, especially since we spent 2 early picks on Jonathan Taylor and Carson, and just gaining more access to spiked weeks at wide receiver. It opens up more ceiling, and that's clearly represented in the data. So that's what we do. We take Diggs in the first round, high upside wide receiver. Mike Evans, high upside wide receiver. Chase Claypool, Judy, LaVisca, Mooney, Rager, Dami. Every single one of those wide receivers can have spiked weeks. And then at running back, we take Jonathan Taylor, who's actually fallen into the middle of the second round right now in ADP. We take Chris Carson, and then we go late. We take Lindsey, who I think can have a role. We take Boston Scott, who's been like splitting time in camp with the ones with Miles Sanders. I think this would be a really, really sharp build to go under. Not enough people use this build. And again, 4 and 5 running backs is just my ideal build, and then load out on the wide receivers. That's what I think you should be doing on Underdog. And then quarterback and tight end, it just depends on how early you want at that position, if you're doing 2 or 3 at those. And honestly, you gotta be going after the weekly upside. It's so, so, so important to be doing that. And honestly, not only in Underdog, you've just got to be targeting players who have weekly upside, because those are the players that are more talented and can break out. I don't want a guy who's consistently getting 5 for 50. I want a guy who has some dud weeks, but then can go off. If I need to use him in the flex, he can provide me a win that way. And the players who can post 100 and a score are the players who turn into Justin Jefferson. Like, I'm not saying everyone that has high upsides can do that. I'm not saying like Dommy Brown's going to be Justin Jefferson, but like, if a player is not even capable of a spiked week, it probably means he's not capable of being a wide receiver 1. You want those players who are capable of spiked weeks, because they can string spiked weeks together and be really good in fantasy. So that is basically it for the Underdog portion. Again, I really, really think you guys should be playing on Underdog. It's giving you access to more players. It's preparing you for your actual draft, because the ADPs are sharp. You did notice one difference is that quarterbacks don't necessarily go at a different spot, but more of them are taken. So I guess the later guys move up a little bit, but that's a very minor difference. In general, if you're looking, especially within positions, within running back, within wide receivers, it's very, very sharp ADPs, so it's great to practice on. And it's just a lot of fun. You know, you add in some Underdog drafts. You're not adding in like time during the season, because I had a year probably, I think it was 2 or 3 years ago, where I was like, okay, we're doing a bunch of subscriber leagues. I joined like 12 leagues, and it was horrible. I hated it so much, because you go to waiver wires and it's like every single, like Tuesday nights, you're there for like multiple hours trying to do all the waiver wire decisions on your 12 teams, all these trades, all these start sits. I so much prefer having like 3 or 4 teams that you manage, you spend a lot of time on, and then just do Underdog drafts, because it's a lot of fun to be like, okay, what stacks do I have? What late round sleepers can I have? You just have access to a wider range of builds. Can I try a team that's only got these like 4 running backs and a bunch of wide receivers? Can I try a bunch of running backs and little wide receivers? Like, it's just fun to go under different constructions and see what works out that season. And if you want to do it, promo code FFA, $25 free, which is 8 free drafts. You know, that's a really, really good deal, because it's not like you're going to be sitting there doing 100 drafts on Underdog, right? I mean, I'm giving you 8 free drafts. So if you want to do that, head on over to Underdog, use promo code FFA to get $25 free. And obviously the 8 free drafts if you're doing the $3 drafts, which is what we do on these mock draft Mondays if you want to be part of these videos. So for those of you who do not do Underdog, or those of you who do both and want to now see a normal draft, that's what we're going to be doing here. Going to go to PPR, because all those drafts that I showed you were half PPR. We're going to snake through it, obviously. 12 teams. I'm going to do it from the 10 spot, because if you guys don't know, I have the new page on the website that tells you what are the best spots to draft in for your specific scoring format. So are you in half? Are you in full PPR? Are you in standard? What is the best spot to be drafting in? And for PPR, the worst spot is 10. So we're going to do the worst spot here, try and get a good team under the worst spot. The best spot is obviously one you get Christian McCaffrey. He provides a huge edge, but we want like a top 4 pick. But within that, just look at the website, thefantasyfootballadvice.com. You'll see exactly like what order you should be picking in, which is huge for people who find out like day of, like our league, you pick out of a hat. If I pick 3, I pick my spot 3rd. So I want to know, okay, what are my favorite spots, because I have to pick them. So that's a really valuable thing on the site. We're going to make quarterbacks high in this one. I don't know. Just felt like it. Sometimes in leagues, quarterbacks go a little bit earlier than you're expecting. And so I figured we'll put that on high. I probably should have checked the roster construction, but we'll do that in a second. I'm pretty sure this is not a super flex draft. It's just like 1 quarterback, 2 running back, 2 wide receiver, 1 flex, and 7 bench. That's what I think it is. At least I hope it is. But we'll find out in about 2 seconds when I click rosters. It's not. Okay. We have to exit. Let's go back. And we'll do no super flex. So yeah, normal 1 flex spot, the 7 bench. Okay. Now we're good. Now we can wait another 9 years for Fantasy Pros to load. I'm going to do news. I mean, honestly, you should just be checking the trending players page on the website. It's completely free to use. I'm basically every day I go in there and post like relevant news. So if I see something relevant in the preseason, in what beat reporters are saying, like I just post it on there and I give like a fantasy take on it. So we don't need to be doing that on these mock drafts because you can see thefantasyfootballadvice.com, trending players, completely free. You can view all the takes on there. So let us do an actual draft. And we'll put that over there. Okay, so the draft starts out with a bunch of running backs, which is what you're going to see this season. McCaffrey, Cook, Kamara, Henry. Adams goes at 5, and then Saquon, Eckler, Zeke, and Jonathan Taylor goes 9. So, top players on the board. Tyreek Hill, Stephon Diggs are 2 options at wide receiver. Kelsey is an option for us at tight end. Aaron Jones is the last of their tier 2. For us on the website, it is under the PPR rankings, it is Kelsey at 6, Aaron Jones at 7. I do a lot of Kelsey drafts, and so I'm not going to do a Kelsey one here. This is my main league. I'm probably taking Kelsey at that spot. But let's do an Aaron Jones build. I don't think we've done many of those, and I want to see how the team works out. We've done, again, a ton of tight end early builds. Let's not do tight end early here. If Waller or Kittle, again, are there for us in that 3rd pick, that's not going to happen in your hometown leagues. They're going to go in that like mid to early 3rd round. So let's make sure that doesn't happen. So we see Nick Chubb, Travis Kelce, Tyreek Hill, and Stephon Diggs come off the board. So we can take Hopkins. Hopkins, I have, no, we actually, Calvin Ridley would be next. Ridley's my 13th ranked player. So we see Mixon, Gibson, and Harris. Mixon is 14th. Gibson is 16th. Harris is 18th. So I have Mixon 1 spot behind Calvin Ridley. Obviously, there's no game planning here with like, ooh, is one of them going to be available in the next pick? No, none of them are going to be available for us. So which do we think would be sharper? I'm guessing that we fall in like this range at running back at the next pick, which honestly would be fine for me as our 2nd running back. And then we're probably going to fall in this range at wide receiver. I want Calvin Ridley. There was the report for you guys probably a week ago that was basically Ridley was like, yeah, my foot was a problem last season. And he was still awesome. He was still fantastic. Obviously, the foot was a problem. You could clearly see he was banged up. But he said that he's fully good to go. It is totally fixed. It's completely behind him. And if that's the case, who are they throwing to besides Ridley and Pitts? I mean, Russell Gage, I guess, is going to get targets. Zacchaeus is going to get targets. But Ridley is going to be a target monster. Could easily be, the wide receiver one this season. I still think it's Adams. But Ridley, man, so much upside. So after us, we see A.J. Brown, Hopkins, a lot of wide receivers. A.J. Brown, Hopkins, Metcalf, Jefferson, Keenan Allen, Allen Robinson, McLaurin, Godwin, Julio, and Michael Thomas all come off the board. Obviously, that Thomas pick is incorrect, but honestly, I would have to edit it for every single one of these rounds because he should be going like the 7th or the 8th round. I'm not editing it on every single pick when people keep taking it, and it'll probably just keep going like this. We'll be here all day if I have to keep changing that, so I'm not going to change it. But of course, Michael Thomas is a bad pick in the 3rd round right now. We only see Mahomes go, so even making quarterback a little bit earlier, I expect to see a run in this like next round, the 4th round. But worth noting that we could take a quarterback in the 4th round, not the 3rd round. At running back, we only see Gibson, Mixon, Harris, Clyde, and Swift go off the board, and then we do see Waller and Kittle go exactly where they should be going there. So if we look at the rankings, a lot of guys are off the board. Jefferson, nope. We see Lamb. So we have the option to take CeeDee Lamb. For top running backs, I'm pretty sure it's going to be like David Montgomery and Carson. Yeah, so Carson and David Montgomery are there. These are really good options. So I think that was a really, really smart decision taking Calvin Ridley at that last pick. Because we're at 10, you guys can see, well, actually, maybe that's my face up there. Because we're at 10, you're going to have 11 and 12 and 12 and 1. So you're going to have 4 go by. Even, like, they would have to take 3 running backs for me to not be happy with what's left in running backs. I'm cool with Carson, Montgomery, and Dobbins. Like, and honestly, Darrell Henderson might even... No, Dobbins is a little bit ahead of Henderson. But, like, I'm fine with even Henderson at that next pick as well. So I think I'm going to be cool at running back. So I don't think I need to take a running back there. And I do think there's a drop-off after CeeDee Lamb. So when we go CeeDee Lamb, like, Allen Robinson's not left. Like, yeah, I have Lamb as, like, an early third-round pick. So he's going to be in the late third round. Like, I think there's a good drop-off to Cooper, to Mike Evans. So I would be risking it if I don't take Lamb at this pick. So take Lamb. I've locked up 2 wide receivers I'm in love with this season. Ridley and Lamb. We're still going to end up getting Carson. Carson I have ranked as a late second round pick, so totally fine getting him. And we're very balanced. So I'll pull up the team here, and I'll pull up the draft board. We are very, very balanced through 4 rounds. We've got Aaron Jones and Chris Carson at running back. Feel great about that. We've got Calvin Ridley and CeeDee Lamb at wide receiver. Feeling really good about that. And so we can afford to take some chances here because I'm good with our core. Unfortunately, you guys know my take on tight end is basically if I'm not getting one of those top 3, I'm waiting to does Pitts or Andrews become a value, or I guess Hawkinson. But if one of those guys becomes a big, big value, take them. But if not, then I'm just going late because I think there are a lot of really, really good tight ends late. You can take Everett, Kmet, Troutman, Irv Smith, Higbee. I like a lot of these guys, and I think that the difference between them and some of these upper tight ends, it's basically, honestly, it's Pitts. If you want to take a chance and say Pitts has the best season ever for a rookie tight end, that's what I would do. But I think we're just going to wait. Let's do tight end late in this one. So, pull up the draft board so I can show you guys what came off the board. So after we picked CeeDee Lamb, it was Montgomery, Miles Sanders, Mike Evans, Amari Cooper go. So then we take Carson. At running backs, we see Dobbins, Etienne, Darrell Henderson, Myles Gaskin, Mike Davis, and Jacobs go. Those are all, that's what's going to happen. We do see Lamar, Kyler and Josh Allen go right before us. That's unfortunate. And then we see a bunch of wide receivers. Robert Woods, Cooper Kupp, Sutton, DJ Moore, Deontay Johnson, Chase, Golladay, who's missing 2 to 3 weeks right now. He should be good to go to start the season, but heard that before, right? Adam Thielen, and then T. Higgins. So, again, we're even. We're not leaning running back or wide receiver, although naturally I lean running back earlier because I hate most of the running backs that are available to us in the mid and late rounds. And so if I can lock up a third one and then completely abandon it and take it kind of later, that's a build I kind of like doing. However, there are a few wide receivers that stand out, but Brandon Ayuk is definitely standing out to me. Tyler Lockett is standing out. I'm kind of coming around to the fact that he was really hurt last season, and so that might have been why we talked about how he was way too up and down with he had so many dud weeks. I like having that upside, but he had 3 good games. I need the weekly production to vary, but not 3 good games. I need more than that. I'm spending a 5th round pick. I think it was because of the injury, and so I'm cool taking him. I actually don't know. Let's go to wide receiver. Who do we have ranked between Lockett? Lockett at 52 and Ayuk at 54. So both of them are a value for me right now, and they are the top wide receiver in the rankings on the board. So both of these guys would be nice to have them. Between Kareem Hunt and Chase Edmonds, we did that video. I don't remember. There was a third running back. Oh, it was Gaskin. I said Gaskin would be first if they don't add another running back. He's already off the board, though, so we can't really look at that. Who did I say between? I think I said Chase between. Yeah, I said Chase Edmonds first. Still looks through camp that Chase Edmonds is pretty clearly their top running back. Obviously, there are concerns they're not going to use him at the goal line, but I feel like we need more reports. We haven't really heard anything out of Arizona as far as the running backs are concerned, just that Chase is still the number 1, but we haven't heard very much information there. I think because I have Aaron Jones, because I have Carson, I think I take a chance and try and get both of Lockett and Ayuk. But who do they have? This is actually a good thing to go after. Okay, so they both have 2 wide receivers, so I guess it's less likely they take a wide receiver. I feel like Ayuk might come off the board, but we're going to try it. I know Lockett would come off the board, so we're going to take Lockett. Hope Ayuk is still there. Get him. He is not. That's unfortunate. Who takes him? Who are we mad at? One before us, our boy. I love Brandon Ayuk this season. Like I think he's going. I think he's going nuclear. Like I think he's so talented. But Lockett, we did have 1 spot ahead. So now if we look at wide receiver, I would love to get Judy. I would love to get Claypool. I don't see a huge difference between a few of these guys that we like, and I think I can get one of them in the next round. So I think it'd be smart for us to just take Kareem Hunt here, see who we get at the next round for wide receiver. Someone's going to be there. Looks like it's going to end up being Judy. I think that's the best thing. It's basically like we did at this pick for Calvin Ridley. It's like, what do we think is going to be available at the next pick? Well, I was pretty sure one of these wide receivers is going to be still on the board, and it looks like they are going to be on the board. Jerry Jeudy's still there, so let's just take Jerry Jeudy. I think he is also going off this season, having a fantastic camp. Sutton's looking better, so initially we were concerned that Sutton was just not going to be fully recovered from the injury, that maybe he's going to take a step back this season because he's coming off a torn ACL. We just don't know how he's going to look. It looks like he's kind of working his way back. He's definitely not 100% right now, but it looks like come week 1, week 2, week 3, he should be good to go. But I still just think Judy's just super talented. He's going to get open. And he was really good in his rookie season from a him perspective. It was that the quarterbacks couldn't get him the ball, which would still be a problem this season. But I think him getting any better, he's going to shred defenders. They just got to be competent at quarterback. And I think then bringing Teddy in there, one of them is going to be okay. And that's basically all we're looking for at quarterback for him. So our team right now, at running back, Aaron Jones, Chris Carson, and Kareem Hunt. At wide receiver, we've got Calvin Ridley, CeeDee Lamb, Tyler Lockett, and Jerry Jeudy. Feel good about that. We don't have a quarterback. We don't have a tight end yet. We should probably start looking at those positions. Aaron Rodgers is for sure a value right now. I don't think any of the tight ends are a value. There's still a lot of these guys that have value exactly the same. So we're not doing that. I don't see a screaming value at wide receiver. I don't see a huge value at running back. And when that's the case, you should probably just take whatever tight end or whatever quarterback thinks of value. If I didn't take Rodgers here, then I would love Tannehill. I would love Stafford. I would like Lawrence. I would like Tua, Fitz, and then Trey Lance. That's basically how I'd work through that. But Aaron Rodgers is coming off an MVP season. It is his last season likely in Green Bay. Let's be honest, dude wants to break records. It's now open for everyone to break records because now we've got 17 games, 18 weeks. I think it's possible that Devonta Adams and Aaron Rodgers each break a record this season, whether that's touchdown passes and touchdown receptions, whether that's receiving yards for Adams. I think they're going after something. Receptions for Adams is a possibility. I think they're going to go after a record this season with that extra game. I think it'll be exciting to see that happen, and especially with this stack. Now I have basically every single touchdown for Green Bay. So with a first and an 8th round pick on potentially a top 3, top 5 offense, I've locked up virtually every touchdown, basically everything that A.J. Dillon doesn't score. Smart to do. You can argue that you're increasing variance because it's what if they have a bad week? But it's how many bad weeks are the Packers going to have? 2, maybe, on the entire season? And so every single time they score, I have it on my team? Yeah, I'm going to do that. So we'll go over the team, I guess, in the next one. For those of you listening on the podcast, which I recommend, iTunes, Spotify, we see pretty even running backs and wide receivers. Pittman, Cooks, Brown, Deebo Samuel come off the board in the 8th round. Curtis Samuel, Waddle, LaVisca, Mooney come off in the 9th round. At running back, we see Latavius Murray, Mostert, David Johnson, and Damian Harris go off the board in the 8th round. And then it's Drake, Connor, Dillon, Cohen, who's way too early for Cohen, and then Philip Lindsay, too early for Philip Lindsay in the 9th round. Only Hurts goes off at quarterback, so we could have gotten Tannehill, but I still think it was really smart locking up Rodgers there. At tight end, we're starting to see values with like Fant, but I'm not going to take Fant if I took Judy. Logan Thomas is a good pick here. Tyler Higbee's a good pick here. But honestly, I think we just keep waiting. So let's just take a running back or wide receiver. I would say in a full PPR league, like Gus Edwards is a good pick, but maybe not in a full PPR league. Hines is not a type of player we get. So I would say Jamal Williams is a solid pick. He should have a role this season. It's basically going to be what you were expecting when he was on the Packers, but probably fewer touchdowns. That's what I would say. But similar like involvement in the offense. And then it's like Bernard. It's later guys like Damian Williams, guys like Boston Scott. So we don't necessarily need running back with this pick unless we go with Williams. That's probably our only pick there. I would say that Mike Williams, Michael Gallup are like quality picks at wide receiver. I wonder who I have between those two. Mike Williams at 98, we're at 106, so that's good. Gallup at 106, we're at 106. So I have Mike Williams ahead. I kind of want to see, can we lock up both of them? That would be really nice. So take Mike Williams here. I probably should have just checked and see if someone else was ahead of Mike Williams. I mean, probably not. Cooks, no. I need to drop Jarvis Landry. Yeah, I gotta drop Jarvis Landry in the rankings. My dude over here took him. Surai Sack Newton. Okay. Which is probably fine because we only have 3 running backs. We probably should just take a running back at that pick. Of course, Gus and Jamal Williams both go, the guys that we were talking about. So these people are annoying us, definitely. I would say Tony Pollard would be smart for us to take at this pick. If Ezekiel Elliott got hurt, Tony Pollard would, of course, get a lot of the workload. He wouldn't get the same rushing volume, but he'd get a lot of the receptions. And plus, there was that talk, again, you guys heard my take. I don't think it's really that valid. I think they're still going to use Zeke a ton. But if they even have in the back of their mind, maybe use Pollard a little bit more, maybe I can throw him in there in the running back 2 spot. If I have like an injury to Aaron Jones and Carson's on bye, and I use Kareem Hunt and Tony Pollard, I could probably get by with that. So with the draft board, we see that I'm not going to list off all these picks, but we see Brady and Tannehill come off the board. We see Tunyon and Jonnu Smith come off the board. It's probably a good time for us to go after some of these tight ends, so let's do that. I really want Mecole Hardman, though. Let's see. Let's pull up the tight end rankings over here. Let's see the difference between Higbee, Logan Thomas, and Fant. So I have Higbee at 77, Logan Thomas at 90. Both are screaming values right now. I don't think both of them are going to take him. We're at the turn here, right? And you've already got Hawkinson. You've already got Kelsey. So I don't expect these guys to take a tight end. So let's not take tight end. We'll take it at our next pick. Who would be better to our team, Giovanni Bernard or Mecole Hardman? At wide receiver, we've got Ridley, CeeDee Lamb, Lockett, Judy, and Mike Williams. And then at running back, we have Aaron Jones, Carson, Hunt, and Tony Pollard. I don't think we need to take Giovanni Bernard. I think we're probably set enough at running back. We're going to take another one, but I'm assuming that Carson and Aaron Jones do well if this team's going to win. And so Bernard wouldn't be like super valuable to our team. I think we just load out our wide receivers. And honestly, we just hope that Mecole has like 2 explosion weeks to start the season. We package him and Mike Williams for like another wide receiver 1. And then every week we're starting Calvin Ridley, CeeDee Lamb, and another wide receiver 1. That would be what I would like plan on for this team. So let's take Hardman. Let's take whichever tight end is available at our next pick. They're both fine, all right? So our top-ranked one is Tyler Higbee, which we could get a real nice grade for this if we take Fant at 78. But, of course, we have Jerry Jeudy, so we don't want to like fully invest in Denver, especially with their quarterback situation not being great. And also, I don't think Fant should be ranked higher than these two. Like, I think Logan Thomas should be ranked higher than Fant. I think Higbee, especially with them probably leaning more towards the pass after this Akers injury, no, I think Higbee would be our best option there. So let's take Higbee, take the decrease in our grade, and then we just got to take our favorite, probably split running back and wide receiver. Maybe we should probably take, should we take 2 running backs? Jones, Carson, Hunt, Tony Pollard. Should we just take, let's just take 2 high upside running backs. Let's do that. So Damian Williams will be our first one. Cohen does not look like he's going to be healthy in week 1, so Williams will open the season with a 3rd down role, so that'll be good in PPR. But then also, we've seen Damian Williams like handle a full workload before when he was on Kansas City. What if, Cohen's on 100% and then David Montgomery goes down? Well, now Damian Williams is like going to be really, really good in fantasy. So that's a nice high upside pick there. And then honestly, like McKinnon's probably not a bad pick. They're talking about him being like having a relatively good role, but then no, it's probably Darrell Williams. Darrell Williams would probably be the better pick. I know he's not on the board, but like Darrell Williams is getting more work with the ones that McKinnon is. Just I think McKinnon's going to have a role. Boston Scott's getting a lot of work with the ones right now, so that's not a bad pick. You guys just know my take on Boston Scott is that like he's always fine, and then it's like if he ever does actually get that starting role, he's not actually going to do all that much. So not in love with that. Who's the highest upside pick? McFarland. If Harris went down, he'd be featured. Might not even be featured though. That's the problem. Xavier Jones. Xavier Jones is definitely the best pick in that spot. I can't say that he'd be featured, but he'd have a very large role if Henderson went down. I think even with Henderson healthy, I think that Xavier Jones will have a role in this offense, and that's just what we're looking for at that round. Now we will take the top defense, which I have them up, guys. I have the defense and the kicker rankings actually updated now, so you can take a gander at those. I'm pretty sure it's Buffalo. So we'll see. Tampa Bay, no. None of them are on the board. Washington's a no-go. Miami is a no-go. All right, Buffalo Bills it is. Beautiful. But yeah, I actually have, I think I was like number 1 last season, which is kind of embarrassing for people. I think I had the number 1 defense rankings last year. It was either defense or kicker. One of them I was like number 1 in. Anyways, here is our team. We've got a beautiful stack of the Green Bay Packers with Aaron Rodgers and Aaron Jones. And then we've got Chris Carson, Calvin Ridley, CeeDee Lamb, Tyler Higbee, Tyler Lockett. We've got Aaron's and Tyler's on this team. Buffalo Bills defense. Then the bench. Really like the bench. Kareem Hunt, Jerry Jeudy, Mike Williams, Tony Pollard, Mecole Hardman, Damian Williams, and Xavier Jones. I think there's a lot of upside at running back. Running backs that don't necessarily have a huge role to start the season. But we don't need that because we've got Aaron Jones and Carson. I think we're set at running back. We're honestly set at wide receiver too, with Ridley, with Lamb, with Lockett, Jeudy. Like I think we're good at those 2 positions. We're good at quarterback. It would basically be, because remember how I said I always want to look at my team after and be like, what do I have to upgrade? I feel like the only thing we upgrade here is Higbee. And honestly, we might not even have to. So we basically just need to figure out, is Higbee good enough to win us a championship or be on a team for a championship? If the answer is no, we got to use our depth on this team to try and upgrade that to a Waller, to a Kittle, to a Kelsey. It's going to be difficult. Hopefully one of them starts slow and you can upgrade that. But I think this is a really, really quality build. So that is the end of a very, very long Mock Draft Monday. Hopefully it's not too long to upload on YouTube. But hit the like button if you guys enjoy. And just subscribe to the channel if you are new here. We're posting the Mock Draft Mondays, of course, every Monday. We're posting the Thursday breakdown videos, and then just player breakdowns, strategy videos in between. But that's the end of this one, and we'll catch you on the next Mock Draft Monday.